Today we're doing 1-9 problem solving with equations. It's very similar to yesterday, except for you're actually going to have enough information to solve for these problems to get an actual number. I am going to do again the evens with you, so you need to open your book to page 52, and we're going to do 2 through 10 even together on the notes, and then for homework you are going to do 1 through 11 even in class. So again, when you look at these, use the evens to help you with the odds. They relate to each other. Let's look at number 2 first. It says Jim's weekly pay is 2/3 of Alicia's. Together they earn $600 per week. What is each person's weekly pay? So you have Jim and Alicia. And I'm going to make Alicia's pay equal A. So A is how much money she gets. And Jim's is going to be 2/3 that, because it says that Jim's weekly pay is 2/3 of Alicia's. And it says together they make $600 per week. So we're going to have Jim's pay plus Alicia's pay is $600. And then you go ahead and solve. I'm going to multiply everything by 3 so I can get rid of my denominator here. So I have 2a equals 3a, which equals 1,800. I combine like terms. I have 5a equals 1,800. So when I divide by 5, a equals 360. So that is Alicia's pay. So the question was, what does each person make? Well, we know that this is hers. So Alicia, she makes $360. And Jim, he is going to be 2/3 of that. So I'm going to have 2/3 times 360. Well, 3 goes into 360 120 times. And 2 times 120 is 240. So Jim is 240 and Alicia is 360. And that's the answer. Whoops. That's the answer for both of those. Let's look at number 4. And again, you can pause, rewind these if I'm going too fast. Number 4 says a homecoming football game. At the homecoming football game, the senior class officers sold slices of pizza for 75 cents each. So we have pizza at 75 cents each. And hamburgers, I'm going to abbreviate, at $1.35 each. They sold 40 more slices of pizzas than hamburgers. So let's make the number of pizzas equal P, so that's how many they sold, and number of hamburgers equal to H. So we have 2 variables here, but it says that they sold 40 more slices of pizza than hamburgers. So we're going to have hamburgers plus 40 equals pizza, because it was 40 more slices of pizza than hamburgers. So however many hamburgers they sold plus 40. And it says the sales totaled $292.50. How many slices of pizza did they sell? Well, let's use what we have. We know that each slice of pizza was 75 cents, and we know that P is going to equal H plus 40, because that's how we're going to keep the same variable, plus $1.35 per number of hamburgers we sold equals $292.50. So one more time, I tried to keep the same variables, so I know that H was the number of hamburgers, and so I would multiply how many hamburgers we sold by $1.35 each. And then I know that there were 40 more slices of pizza sold, so I have H plus 40 times the 75 cents. Now, when you're working with these problems, it's easier if you get rid of that decimal point. So as long as you move the decimal point over twice for all three parts, you should get the same answer. And it's easier to solve for this when you don't have the decimal points to worry about. So I'm going to distribute 75, and I'm going to have 75H plus 3,000 plus 135H equals 29,250. And I will combine like terms here, and I will get 210H plus 3,000 equals 29,250. I'm going to subtract the 3,000 because I'm solving for H. I get 210H equals 26,250. Divide by 210. I get H equals 125. So H equals 125. So let's see what the question was. The question said for number 4, how many slices of pizza did they sell? Well, H is the number of hamburgers. Okay, so we would go back and say, okay, hamburgers is 125, and I would have to add 40 to that to get 165 slices of pizza. So this is the slices of pizza, and this is how many hamburgers, but it only wanted to know how many slices of pizza did they sell, so we would say we sold 165 slices of pizza. Let's move on to number 6. Number 6 says, if one side of a square is increased by 8 centimeters, so you have a square, and one side of the square is increased by 8. So a square means that all these sides are the same. One side is increased by 8, and the adjacent side is decreased by 2. So that means that this side for the new, in this case, rectangle would be 2 less. So if I drew that rectangle, I would have 8 more and 2 less than the square, the sides of the square. It goes on to say that a rectangle is formed, which we just drew, whose perimeter is 40 centimeters. So I know that these sides are the same and this side is the same, right? These two and these two. And if you find the perimeter, you're adding the sides together, and it tells you that the perimeter is 40. So I can set this equal to 40, and I now can solve for x. So let's see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 x's. And I have 8 plus 8 minus 2 minus 2. We end up getting 12 equals 40. Subtract 12. I have 4x equals 28. When I divide by 4, x equals 7. So make sure you go back and answer the question. It says find the length of the side of the square. Well, x is 7. Well, that works because we were trying to find the sides of the square, and we did. X is 7 because x was the variable for the side of the square. Number 8 says the degrees measures of the angles of a pentagon. So let's draw a pentagon. Again, I'm not a good drawer. Are consecutive even integers. Find the measure of the largest angle. So we're going to make one of them x, one of them x minus 2, one of them x minus 4, because they're even. I'm going to check it said even. Yep. X 6x minus 8. So here's all the angles, okay, of the pentagon in consecutive even integers. And it gives you a hint. It says the sum of the measures of the angles of the pentagon is 540. So we can add all these together. And it equals 540. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's. And you have 8 and 6 and 4, so we have, and 2 is 20. So we're going to have minus 20 equals 540. Add 20 to the other side. You have 5x equals 560 divided by 5. X equals 112. And let's see what that means. It says the question was find the length of the side of the square. Wait, I looked at the wrong one, sorry. There's so many in here. Find the measure of the largest angle. Well, we made x the largest angle, and it didn't matter where it was on here. So here's x, and we found that x is 112 degrees, and so that is our largest angle. And if you've noticed when I do these, I always go back and look what the question was, because sometimes when you solve for a variable, it doesn't mean that you actually solve for what it was looking for. It depends what you made your variable equal to. Alright, let's go to number 10. 10 is on the next page, which is page 53. And we're looking at number 10. In a walkathon to raise money for a charity, Elisa walked a certain distance at 5 miles per hour and then jogged twice that distance at 8 miles per hour. Her total time walking and jogging was 2 hours and 15 minutes. How many miles long was the walkathon? And it gives you a hint. It says make time equal to distance over rate. And the reason you want to do that for this problem is because your time or your distance is going to be related, because you walk a certain distance and then you walk twice that, and you want to find and your time here is what you're going to have to find, which it says here your total walking time is 2 hours and 15 minutes. So let me start working this one out, because I know I didn't do a good job of explaining it, but I think once I fill in the missing pieces, you'll understand why I didn't use distance equals rate times time. We actually just divided by r to make the equation t equals d over r. So we just manipulated it to make it look differently. So let's start plugging some things in. It says Elisa walked a certain distance at 5 miles per hour. So we don't know what that distance is, but she walked 5 miles per hour. Then she jogged twice that distance at 8 miles per hour. So here's her distance, and she walked 8 miles per hour, and twice the original distance. And it says her total time walking and jogging was 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I'm going to make that 2 1/4. Now, how did I get 2 1/4? Well, you got to keep it in terms of hours, because this is 5 miles per hour, and this is 8 miles per hour. So I know I have 2 hours, but then I have this 15 minutes I need to worry about. Well, I know that I can divide that by 60 to get this in terms of hours. So this is my 15 minutes over 60 to get it in terms of hours. Well, 15 goes into 15 once, and 15 goes into 60 4 times. So I have 2 1/4 of an hour. So I made that 15 minutes into 1/4, which is 1/4 of an hour. Now I'm going to look at this, and I want to make this an improper fraction, because it'll be easier to solve. So I have x over 5 plus 2x over 8 equals 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. and over 4, because we always make it underneath our denominator. And I will then try to solve for x. Now, if you notice, the reason we set it up as t equals d over r was because it told us what our total time was for the walking and for the jogging. So that's why we changed the equation around to make it easier to solve for our distance, because our distance wasn't going to be the same. It depended on if we were jogging or walking, how far we went. Alright, so I'm going to multiply everything by 40. Now, why am I doing that? Well, I'm trying to get rid of all of my denominators. So I asked myself, okay, what does 5, 8, and 4 go into? And the answer is 40. So what happens is when I distribute this, I go, okay, 5 goes into 40 8 times. So I have 8 times x is 8x. And 8 goes into 40 5 times. So 5 times 2 is 10x. And 4 goes into 40 10 times. So 10 times 9 is 90. And if you notice, I got rid of all my denominators. So I'm just asking, what is 5 goes into this? 8 times. 8 times x is 8x. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 2x is 10x. 4 goes into 40 10 times. 10 times 9 is 90. So if you look, I can simplify this easily, and I get 18x when I combine like terms. And when I divide by 18, I get 5. Now, that's what x is. But if you notice, we travel for x distance and 2 times that. So we know when we walked for 5 miles, and then we did 5 times 2, which was 10 miles. So our total jogging, walking time was 15 miles. And that is our final answer. So if you notice, x wasn't the final answer. We had to go back and plug it in to find out what our actual distance was. Okay, and that's it for tonight.